WWE is looking at having a massive WrestleMania 39. We're going to talk about all of the big deals, the big plans, everything in today's video. First, we got some other stories and, of course, timestamps in the description down below. There's been a lot of confusion here about Gran, Metalik, and Lince Dorado and Impact Wrestling. Quite a few wrestling news websites have come out and said that Lince Dorado made his Impact Wrestling debut. And while I 100% believe he should go to Impact Wrestling, we're actually talking about Gran Metalik. And believe it or not, this is a really good move for Impact Wrestling, but I do have some question marks here. And a lot of this actually has to do with the type of contracts that Impact Wrestling is signing, because there seems to be a lot of question marks there. Now, I am never going to spoil the match results for Impact Wrestling's tapings because they do tape so much in advance. But of course, with a big debut like this, I have to wonder, what are the long-term plans for Gran Metalik and Impact Wrestling? Right now, if you watch the X division, you're going to see that they have been making a lot of big changes and a reignited focus on the division. We're seeing some great matches. Chris Bay, Trey Miguel, Mike Bailey, all of these guys are putting in the work. They're having great matches. Plus, Alan Angels, formerly of the Dark Order, was in Impact Wrestling recently, had a hell of a match. I like the idea of them adding to the X division. I like the idea of them making it a focus again. We've seen Christian Blake. We have seen Alex Zane. We have seen quite a few independent wrestling talent names go into Impact. Laredo Kid is another great example. Impact Wrestling continues to build it up. But what is the plan here for Gran Metalik? Is it a 1-year contract, 2-year contract, or is it per appearance? That's one of the biggest question marks. I think if you really, really want to put a focus on that X division, you got to start signing some of these people to long-term deals. Hell, while you're at it, you should bring in Lince Dorado. He's been having great matches lately on the independent scene. But it's time to see what Impact Wrestling is going to do here. They're not going to sign the biggest names, but they're going to sign great pieces that actually end up resulting in good television. And I think that's a great move. If you guys don't pay attention to the little details on WWE programming these days, you could be missing out on a lot. During WWE SmackDown, there was an interview backstage segment taking place, and for some reason, nobody seemed to notice that Nikki a.s.h. and Doudrop were in the background of this segment arguing. Now, obviously, WWE is teasing a split between the women's tag team. There's been rumors and reports lately that WWE is looking at changing the names of both superstars, which is obviously a big deal for Triple H to do, because Triple H is basically tying up loose ends, and he is fixing all of the mistakes that Vince McMahon made, changing superstars' names for no reason, putting them in gimmicks that don't necessarily make sense. Nikki a.s.h. and Doudrop going back to their respective gimmicks could make a lot of sense in 2022. But of course, with them teasing the split up, it's actually a really cool thing to make a big deal out of. And the reason why I'm talking about it is because these small details that you're actually missing, that you're not paying attention to, tell a bigger, it draws a bigger picture for an eventual storyline. And I think that is one of the things that is actually making backstage segments feel a little bit more important now. Dexter Lumis's debut was kind of, throughout the night, it was kind of teased, but you didn't know what was happening. You started to watch, and as it started to progress, you started to realize, oh my gosh, these backstage segments are getting better. So things that are happening in the background are just as important as the things happening in the foreground, and I think that is really awesome that WWE is paying a lot of attention to the small things. Now, as far as the name changes go, Piper Niven is a way better name than Doudrop, and of course, Nikki Storm is a way better name than Nikki a.s.h., but we'll see what happens here. I'm very curious to see how Triple H is going to handle the women's mid-card opposed to just the women's main event scene. That's going to be a big challenge for WWE, but I think it's going to be very important. I also like the idea of them adding a secondary title for the women's division. I know it's not the most common or popular opinion on social media these days, but they have a lot of talent. This could be a great thing for them to do, and I would be really interested in that. I'm also interested in WrestleMania 39, and I normally don't talk about WrestleMania 39 this much in advance, but Triple H is looking at making it a big event, and it starts with Conor McGregor. Now, weeks ago, Slice Wrestling put out a report about Conor McGregor possibly being at WrestleMania 39, something that WWE and Triple H is interested in doing, and I've kind of held back from talking about this report because, well, Conor McGregor isn't necessarily on a winning streak, and there hasn't been enough news about Conor McGregor on a day-to-day basis for me to offer true analysis on what I think is good or bad. Now, that all of a sudden changes because now there are rumors pointing to Conor McGregor returning from his injury and fighting in 2023. There's kind of an issue with that if WWE's plan is to bring him into WrestleMania 39. First issue is, well, Conor McGregor isn't winning fights. So if he doesn't win his next fight, whenever it may be, regardless of who it's against, that obviously will hurt his stock. A lot of people feel like Conor McGregor's career in the UFC could be coming to an end. And that's actually not a real big deal because Conor McGregor at this point has reached the status of where he has become larger than MMA, larger than UFC. He's got a lot of business ventures. He's becoming incredibly popular above the sport. But again, for WWE, they want to bring in Conor McGregor, the winner. They don't want to bring in Conor McGregor, the loser, who is dealing with a ton of drama. That's the first issue. The second issue is that Conor McGregor is in a situation where if he is fighting in 2023 and he's returning from injury, the last thing WWE will need to deal with is an injured Conor McGregor. Imagine having a healthy, winning Conor McGregor at WrestleMania 39. A lot of people are going to be interested in that. The problem is if Conor McGregor gets injured and you have to pull him away from WrestleMania 39, that could be a big loss to WWE. So now that we know Conor McGregor has plans to fight early 2023, well, it's going to be something to pay attention to because if he's winning, sure, WWE, it makes sense for them to bring him in. If he gets injured, there's no reason to. And that could definitely play into hurting the plans. Now, when it comes to WWE and WrestleMania and having those big moments, WWE brought in Logan Paul. They brought in Bad Bunny. They bring in celebrities. I don't know how I feel about Conor McGregor going to WWE just yet. But he will definitely be entertaining if he comes to the WWE. So it makes sense. WWE WrestleMania 39, it's all about making it feel like a big, big event. That's what WWE's plans are. And that also starts with The Rock and Roman Reigns. Now, we have been following this story for months. Obviously, there's been a lot of rumors, a lot of seeds planted within the Young Rock television show. But then recently we talked about The Rock, who may not actually be able to wrestle at WrestleMania 39 due to other conflicting scheduling things. Now, it appears that Roman Reigns is he's kind of teasing some people because publicly in an interview, he just recently stated that they are much closer to that match than they were before. And obviously WWE knows that they have a money match here. This match is far larger than any championship match on the card. But what's really cool about WrestleMania 39 and what I keep hearing from people is that WWE is looking at making this the biggest two-night event of all time, the biggest WrestleMania of all time. They have massive, massive plans for this pay-per-view. And not only does that mean celebrity involvement, but that also has to do with WWE making those championship belts actually matter. Now, you guys may have missed my last video, and I talked about WWE changing up the championship belt designs, but they are really looking at WrestleMania from a different perspective. They're trying to satisfy all types of fans here. And that's what's going to make WrestleMania an absolute banger. Rock vs. Roman doesn't need a championship belt, which means all the other championship belts will actually mean something. This match will be really good. It's going to satisfy hardcore fans and, of course, casual fans. Plus, if you're bringing in Conor McGregor, Logan Paul, Bad Bunny, like everybody's going to be happy with this. And now the build actually starts a lot sooner than people realize. And I think that's one of the coolest things about Triple H. It seems like they actually have a long-term plan going into it, and that excites me.